Breaking news! General Manager Eric DeCosta and Coach John Harbaugh said some things in their press conferences in the last few hours that have left a lot of people uneasy. I'll get right to the point, because this really got to me. Before continuing, make sure you've already hit the like button if you're a true Baltimore Ravens fan and want to see the team fly in 2025. Now I want to know your opinion on something. Are you for or against the departure of Mark Andrews and Justin Tucker? Your opinion is very important. Write it down below. Our GM spoke exactly about this. From Mark Andrews' uncertain future, the serious allegations surrounding Justin Tucker, and the imminent decision on Ronnie Stanley's contract. Yes, my friends, the Ravens are at a crossroads this offseason. Let's start with Mark Andrews, the heart of the Ravens offense for years and Lamar Jackson's most reliable target. Since arriving in Baltimore in 2018, Andrews has been a pillar of consistency, chemistry, and playmaking ability. But the way Eric DeCosta has spoken about him, it certainly seems like Andrews' time in Baltimore may be coming to an end. Nothing official yet, but DeCosta's words didn't inspire much confidence that he'll be donning the purple and black next season. When asked about Andrews' future, DeCosta said, "Mark will be in the Ring of Honor someday. I love having him on the team. We'll figure out the mechanics of the roster in the next few weeks." This is where it gets interesting. Mentioning Andrews in the past tense is a big red flag. When a GM starts talking about a player's legacy with the team, it usually means they're setting fans up for a tough decision. And let's be real, if the Ravens move on from Mark Andrews, whether via trade or waiver, it's a big move. Financially, it makes sense. Releasing or trading Andrews would free up $11 million in much-needed cap space, and the Ravens, as DeCosta said, are looking in the couch cushions to find the money. There's also the emergence of Isaiah Likely, who stepped up big time in Andrews' absence last season. With Likely still on a rookie contract and Charlie Kolar also in the mix, the Ravens have cheaper options at tight end. But letting Andrews walk is a gamble. He's not just a key part of the offense, he's a locker room leader, a fan favorite, and Lamar Jackson's safety net. If he hits free agency, the Bengals, Steelers, or even a team like the Chiefs could swoop in, and imagine Andrews lining up alongside Travis Kelce in Kansas City. That's the kind of nightmare scenario Baltimore fans have to consider. So, do the Ravens trade Andrews and get something in return? Or do they release him out of respect, giving him the freedom to choose his next team? It's a brutal decision, but from everything we heard, it seems like the Ravens are preparing for life without number 89. Now, let's shift to something even more complicated, the allegations against Justin Tucker. This is one of the most shocking developments in Ravens history. Tucker, a franchise icon and one of the best kickers the NFL has ever seen, is now at the center of a serious situation. The team's response? Very different approaches from DeCosta and Harbaugh. DeCosta was all business, stating that the allegations are serious and concerning and that the team is waiting for the league to complete its investigation before making any decisions. Translation: the Ravens are in damage control mode. They aren't committing to anything until they have all the facts, which is understandable. But Harbaugh, he took a much more emotional, personal approach. That's not something you want to wake up and read. You don't want to read about things that are hurtful and harmful to people. That's a powerful statement. Instead of sticking to a script, Harbaugh acknowledged how difficult this situation is, not just for Tucker and the team, but for anyone potentially affected. And then came the subtle but crucial moment. While discussing the possibility of bringing in another kicker, Harbaugh slipped up, or nearly did. Even if all this hadn't happened, he can't kick forever. It was as if he was about to say that Tucker's time in Baltimore was over before catching himself. If the Ravens were already considering kicker options before this news broke, what does that say? Are they preparing to move on regardless of the investigation's outcome? The optics are tough. Cutting a franchise legend like Tucker, even under these circumstances, would send shockwaves through the fan base. But if the Ravens believe they need a fresh start at kicker, this might be the moment they make that move. And finally, let's talk about the offensive line, where Ronnie Stanley's future hangs in the balance. The good news? For the first time in his career, Stanley played in every single game last season. The bad news? The Ravens have a huge decision to make, and time is running out. Eric DeCosta was vague, saying the team will be talking to Ronnie Stanley's agent and that he thinks they'll be able to get something done. But Harbaugh, he sounded much more confident. "I think we'll probably keep Ronnie." The way he said it, you'd think Stanley had already signed a new contract. But here's the catch. If the Ravens don't lock him down by March 10th, other teams will start making offers, and Baltimore might not be able to compete. Stanley has been a Raven his whole career, but loyalty only goes so far when money is on the table. If they let him test free agency, they might find themselves looking for a new left tackle sooner than expected. So, Ravens fans, this is the reality we're looking at. Mark Andrews could be gone. Justin Tucker's future is in serious doubt. Ronnie Stanley's fate is up in the air. This is one of the most crucial off seasons in recent memory, and the decisions made in the next few weeks will shape the team's future for years to come. What do you think? Should the Ravens move on from Mark Andrews? Is it time to prepare for life after Justin Tucker? And will they get a deal done with Ronnie Stanley before it's too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is going to be a wild ride. And that's not even the end of the story, RAVENS fans. Because beyond the big names we just covered, there are even more crucial decisions that could shake up this team heading into next season. The NFL draft, free agency, and cap space limitations all play a role in what could be one of the most transformative offseasons in recent Ravens history. Let's start with the offensive line, because if Ronnie Stanley does walk, that's going to create a major void at left tackle. And even if he stays, it's clear the Ravens need to bolster the O-line. Fans have seen this unit go through constant reshuffling in recent years, and last season was no different. Injuries, inconsistency, and depth issues made it clear Baltimore cannot afford to ignore the trenches any longer. And this is where it gets interesting. Some draft analysts project the Ravens to take an edge rusher in the first round, but with Stanley's status uncertain, should they be prioritizing an offensive lineman instead? One fan, Malibu Boy, raised an important point. With Pat McCrary and Ronnie Stanley heading into free agency, offensive line is a necessity. But I'd be fine adding an elite edge rusher too. And he's absolutely right. It all comes down to what happens in the next few weeks. If Stanley stays, the Ravens could afford to take the best player available approach in the draft. But if he leaves, that changes everything. Protecting Lamar Jackson should be priority number one. The Ravens have always been a team that builds through the trenches, and if they want to make another deep playoff run, they need to solidify the offensive line. But speaking of Lamar, let's talk about the offense for a second. Because if Andrews is gone and Stanley is potentially out the door, what's the plan? Baltimore still has Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Isaiah Likely, but do they have enough firepower? Would they consider making a splash move for a veteran wide receiver? The Ravens haven't exactly been aggressive in free agency when it comes to top-tier receivers, but could this be the year that changes? If they free up $11 million by moving on from Andrews, maybe they go after a proven playmaker to give Lamar more weapons. A name like Mike Evans has been floated around, but would the Ravens actually pay for a star receiver? That's the million-dollar question. Now, let's shift back to the defense, because while the offense has major questions, the defense is facing its own set of challenges. The biggest one? The pass rush. Baltimore had a dominant defensive unit last season, but there's no question they need a consistent, elite-level pass rusher. The problem? Finding one. The Ravens have drafted edge rushers in the past, but they haven't hit on a truly dominant one in a long time. The next few weeks are going to be crucial, and as Ravens fans, we all know one thing: whatever happens, it's going to be a wild ride. But now, it's over to you. What do you think should be the Ravens' top priority this offseason? Should they lock in Ronnie Stanley at all costs? Or is it time to move on? If Mark Andrews is gone, how should they adjust the offense? And if they really do move on from Justin Tucker, who should be the next kicker in Baltimore? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's get this conversation going. This is going to be one of the most fascinating off seasons we've seen in a long time, and we'll be here breaking it all down every step of the way.